Now let's study what are types of beams. First we have a simply supported beam. So a beam which is supported at its ends, and in one case if one of the support is a hinge support and another support is a roller support, then that can be called as a simply supported beam. Whereas also if both the end supports are roller supports, then also your beam can be called as a simply supported beam. So this beam which has been shown in the figure, which has been supported on a wall kind of structure and it is being acted upon by load, can be called as your simply supported beam. Second type of beam is a cantilever beam. So as shown in the figure, a beam whose one end is fixed whereas the other end is free, there is no support, can be called as your cantilever beam. In this figure you can see this beam. Now this part of the beam can be called as a fixed beam as it has been fixed at both the ends, that is the beam is fixed to this support so that there is no displacement as well as rotation about this end. Another example of this fixed beam is the single hook beam, in which we have this beam which is fixed into this body part support and the load is being acting at the center by means of this hook. This hook can be used to raise any weight. Next kind of beam is called as propped beam. As shown in the figure, if you have a beam whose one end is fixed whereas the other end is simply supported, we call this beam as a propped beam. So it is nothing but a cantilever beam with simply support at its free end. Examples of propped beam are, as you can see in this figure, this is a structure which has been fixed at one end over here and it has been simply supported by a simple column. So this is an example of a propped beam. The load of course is actually the weight of this structure. The next and last type of beam is your continuous beam. So as we can see, if suppose we have a very large length of beam which is being supported by means of simple roller supports at equidistant or intermittent distance, we call this type of beam as continuous beam. Examples of continuous beams are, in this we have this long beam in blue color which is being supported by these structures which are simple roller supports and are at some intermittent distance apart. So this is an example of a continuous beam. And for that case, any bridges for railway lines and for roads can be called as your continuous beams. So now we do the small summary of all the types of supports and its support reaction and what are the type of beams. So in our representation, we can show a beam by a single line which is resting on supports. Now in the first type of beam we have simply supported beam. Simply supported beam can be given as shown in figure. The support reactions are, on a hinge support we have one vertical reaction and one horizontal reaction, whereas on roller support we have single vertical reaction. The second type of beam is a cantilever beam in which one end is fixed whereas other end is free. So the fixed support of the cantilever beam provides one vertical reaction, one horizontal reaction and a moment M. And in case of fixed beam, at both the ends we find a vertical reaction, a horizontal reaction and a moment M, and even in this end we have the same vertical reaction, a horizontal reaction and a couple M. A point to be noted, the reaction directions are only assumed directions. The actual direction of all the support reactions will depend upon the direction in which the load is acting. So now here in propped beam we have one vertical reaction, one horizontal reaction and a couple M, moment M, and in the roller support we have one vertical reaction. Now next, in the continuous beam, at all the point of roller supports we have vertical reaction.